So welcome one and all to another episode of the Wiki Weekdays podcast. I'm your host this week, Karl Smallwood, joined as ever by the illustrious Lucas Holland.
Hello there.
If anyone out there unfamiliar with the format, myself and Lucas scour the lengths and breadths of the internet for a wiki on a subject we're interested in and bring them forward for discussion. And this week's recording is a little different, isn't it, Lucas? Because normally we record these live, but we can't do that this week.
Yeah, one of us is away for a while, so just this one's going to have to be done in advance, which does mean a couple of the gimmicks that we usually do for a live podcast don't quite work.
But apparently one gimmick we're still able to do is like Pet of the Week. You're going to edit in a Pet of the Week below, right? We don't know which pet it's going to be, but there's definitely going to be someone's pet below us right now. So whatever pet that is, congratulations on being Pet of the Week. If you like your Pet of the Week, or your pet to become Pet of the Week, you can go to our Discord found link below and submit a picture of your pet, an animal, or I keep saying bird flying past a window, just because that's impossible to capture, right?
Yeah, and it's people on any tier of our Patreon can submit the pictures, and then anyone on the Discord can vote towards which pet wins Pet of the Week. And this week is congratulations to Mystery Pet.
See, Mystery Pet's a great idea. I want to go on a show called Mystery Pet, or Pet Swap. Do you like Wife Swap? Where it's just you get someone else's missus for a week. Or Pet Swap.
What I want to do is have a show where people who have maybe particularly difficult dogs as well, just maybe to get the point across better, have someone with a dog and someone with a kid, swap them for a week, and then you can both kind of just sympathize with, hey, both of these are difficult in different ways, and ultimately they're just responsibilities, right?
Yeah, I think I went home this weekend and I saw my sister's pet cat. And it's just the most needy fucking cat ever, where I came in after a drink and I was sat in the front room and I was meow, 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 meow. It's like, I'm trying to eat my pizza, Mr. Jasper. Please just let me eat my pizza. Meow, 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 meow. And I'm sleeping on the sofa, so all I can hear on the sofa, meow, meow, meow. For fuck's sake.
See, there's one thing that you say like Mr. Jasper. And
yeah.
I don't know what it is about cats, but I feel like you can get away with naming a cat like Mr. Jasper.
That is his name, by the way. It's like he's not like Jasper and we call him Mr. Jasper. Like his name on vet documents is Mr. Jasper.
But I feel like you don't really have any, if many, dog breeds that you can get away with calling them like Mr. something.
Yeah. Well, it's because just dogs are less formal, right?
I guess so, yeah. Dogs are just chill. Most of them, anyway.
Cats, you can give them any name and it makes sense, right? Like you can have Mr. Jasper, but also I've met cats called like Meatball.
Oh, I love food-based names, right? It's like I always like cats called Waffles for some reason.
Mr. Waffles, let's go.
Awful. Anyway,
yes.
Yeah, I will have to edit in later on a Pet of the Week, so that's why we don't have the Pet of the Week, because currently we're recording not long before we're going to record the other podcast where we actually have a Pet of the Week already. So
that'll be from last week for the audience watching this live or close to when it comes out.
So yeah, they don't need to worry about that, Karl. But there's a Pet of the Week there.
There is. And also we can't do our other gimmick, which is which wiki won this week, which is where we allow you, our audience, to vote on which wiki you thought inspired the best conversation. So not necessarily the subject you're most interested in, but the subject that you thought brought forward and helped just, bookend and kickstart the best conversation, or most interesting conversation between myself and Lucas. And you can also vote on that found below, because I'll be back next week unless my plane crashes. Let's tempt that fate, shall we? So I should be back next week to decide which of these topics was our audience found most interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing,
are you superstitious in regards to that? 'Cause I'm not at all. I'm not superstitious. I'm I will go watch Final Destination before I get on a plane. I don't give a fuck.
I mean, maybe I wouldn't watch Final Destination on a plane, something like that. Maybe that would be one step too far.
I did that once where on Netflix they had Final Destination 1. So I downloaded it on my phone to watch on a plane, and the guy next to me just looked at me and went, really? So I just wanted to say that I'd done it.
Yeah, I think I would be the guy in that situation of
really?
Of all movies you had to put on, couldn't have even put number 3 on.
Could put Alive on or something like that, which is the one where they crash in the mountains and eat each other.
Or you could put Final Destination 2 on, and that's the one time you don't have to be worried about those log carrying trucks, right? Is when you're in the plane.
Until you see the log carrying planes. Do you imagine let's putting a little trailer with all the logs on it in midair? But yes, I'm not superstitious about that, but hopefully I'm back next week. If I'm not, my plane did crash, and I'm currently in like the mountains somewhere, just gnawing on some thigh bone.
God, Cole chose the cannibal option.
Well, I don't think I could do it. But at the same time, I don't want anyone to kill me and eat me.
I'd
So
rather
I'd have to
someone.
sit out and say, I'll sit this one out. If I die of like exposure or hunger, you can eat me, but get away from me with that big shat rock.
Yeah, if someone gave me the choice of like, do you want to be killed and eaten, or do you want to kill and eat people? I'd pick the first option. I wouldn't want to eat people.
But at the same time, it's like, you're not killing me, but if I die, you can eat me. Also, I'm now going to sleep with one eye open, because that's just like, basically, that's just asking people to put you, cave you in with a rock, right?
It is. Oh, they were like, oh no, a giant rock fell on your head and hit you repeated times.
Yes, I can't believe he died of just that classic natural cause, being smashed open, head smashed open with rock. And speaking of people who wouldn't smash a head open with a rock and feast on the delicious gooey insides, let's give a shout out to our sponsors, right?
Yeah, our sponsors of the week. You got our amazing patron producers, as I like to call them.
The thing is, though, right? Can you imagine if one of our patrons was trying to support us in the hopes of smashing a head in with a rock and eating on feasting on the insides?
Like they're playing the long game.
Yeah.
But yeah, the names that you see above, they are the people on, I'd say, what I like to call our patron, like podcast producer tier. But also we have
the P's, the PPPs. I still think we should just call them patron producers, so we call them PPs.
So shout out to the PPs out there. But
shout
also
out to all the big PPs watching.
We have specific.
Do you have a big PP? Do you want to be a big PP? Writes itself, mate.
Okay. But Carl, we have to actually shout out the people on our highest tier.
Yes. And would you like to start?
I will start by saying a special thanks to B of Awesome, with many B emojis after.
And a crown emoji as well.
Oh, yes.
Followed by a Wu One King Day One Piece Wonka.
And the burning dragon burns bright in the Bourbon Bureau of bodacious buffoons, buffing barns in the backs of Bengal barnacles. I did a lot better this time.
Followed by Rosalind is Memphis.
Oh, God. I can't remember how we say this one.
Nick Nikui Hoshata. I believe it's the C you don't pronounce.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you for that one, but also thanks to Lucille the Steel.
Followed by Little Ghost.
Kicking Bucket with a little bucket emoji after.
Judge, little dash, Dread. Which makes it sound like just Judge Dredd has a fucking like quick dash, right?
Decipher Bio.
Finally, but certainly not like so, and last but certainly not least, Carlos crea una oración en español para Totora, a Carlo Polochica, y Lucas Holland and Petron. All of which is probably pronounced wrong. I'm very sorry.
But I'm not sorry that we have all of those lovely support. You know, literally helping make stuff like this happen. So
they are indeed. And
thank you to everyone supporting on that tier, but thank you to everyone that helps support us financially and just watching. And if you do want to help us out in a non-financial way, you can share this episode or tell a friend about it if you think.
You can also just not cave our skull in with a rock and feast on delicious insides.
Yeah, that's also true.
Every now and again, I just think about that guy who wanted to be eaten. Because we'll never cover this on Wiki Weekends because the subject matter's too dark. But I'm going to mention it just offhand. Remember the German dude who went onto a forum and said, "I want someone to kill and eat me. Is there anyone out there who wants to kill and eat somebody?" Like pervert Tinder, he was essentially on. So Tinder, and it actually went through. And I remember that being a court case of well, it is illegal to kill someone, but if the person gave him permission to kill him, is that a crime? And it turns out yes, it is.
I was going to say, I guess most places it still is because that would be classed as it's not euthanasia, is it? It's what's the other word for it?
I guess it'd be manslaughter.
Oh,
in its most literal legal sense.
Like the word for assisted, self-killing.
That's euthanasia.
Is that euthanasia? Okay, yeah. I thought I was getting the wrong word for some reason, but yeah. I guess in some places you could see it as that.
Even if you do it with a fucking rock.
Yeah, exactly.
Not very scientific or medically sound.
It's just not as nice, I guess, a way to do it, right?
Do you know the worst bit about that story? It's one of those things where,
Surely we've covered the worst part of that story already.
No, the worst part of the story is before the guy got killed, he got his dick cut off. And he wanted to cook and eat his own penis. And the guy cooked it wrong. And it's like, you had one chance and one opportunity, and you fucked it up because they threw it away because he cooked it wrong. And as he cooked it wrong, it didn't taste very nice. And it's like, you literally had one job. And it's not like you can go to the shop and get yourself another dick.
But also, to defend the chef used, in very vague terms there, but to defend the chef, you don't get much practice at cooking penises.
He could have gone to the shop and practiced on, the animal equivalent.
Right? Maybe, yeah. You know what? I don't think we should get into the semantics.
I can't imagine anything more, frustrating than that. I'd say it'd be blue balling, but we know the guy literally couldn't experience that anymore. Oh. If he waited his entire life to experience this one thing, and the dude fucked it up.
I know one thing that would be me even more frustrating than that, Karl. That would be waking up and figuring out that you're trapped inside of a tiny robot.
Well, that would suck ass. So are we ready to get on to your wiki subject for this week?
We are indeed, I think.
Okay.
But my wiki for this week is inspired by Karl's choice, which, if anyone's seen the thumbnail for this podcast, remember that you can also find it on audio services like podcast services and all that jazz. Karl told me that he was going to be speaking about M3GAN. I believe that's the pronunciation. M3GAN, right?
It's not I think that it's not like a fan four stick situation where people call it fan four stick because the movie sucked, so we're not even going to give it the dignity of pronouncing the name properly.
Yeah.
Or the name the way they want it to. M3GAN's a good film, so you pronounce it M3GAN. If it was a bad movie, you'd probably call it M3GAN.
Yeah, or 5 Cream. We all know 5 Cream. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just that thing. M3GAN is a good film, and that's why people probably stopped calling it M3GAN so much.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's like, let's not take the piss so much out of this one.
Yes.
But yeah, I then did a basic word association in my brain, essentially, and was like, I know that there's a Black Mirror episode which involves small tiny robot girl.
Yes.
And that's just where my brain leaped to immediately. So I was like, you know what? Let's talk about the Black Mirror episode, Rachel, Jack, and Ashley too.
And that is the one with Miley Cyrus, yes?
Yes. So this is the one where Miley Cyrus is, shock horror, a pop star that doesn't like to continue to be a pop star.
The thing is, I'm a fan of when celebrities get cast in projects. Or, celebrities who aren't actors get cast in projects. And they play a slightly elevated version of themselves. I think to Arrested Development when they got Carl Weathers in. And Carl Weathers just plays like a cheapskate who's always got to get his stew going.
Well, as much as, we rag on the person themselves, the main character, but Extras is a great one for that because it has Ricky Gervais in it, basically just playing the Ricky Gervais character he normally does.
A failed actor who's not funny, yeah.
Yeah, and every single other celebrity, that guest stars, just steals every scene they're in, right? Because they all just come in to play buffoonish, horrible versions of themselves.
The best one's just Patrick Stewart, where he just keeps pitching movies where his female co-star's clothes fall off.
I think I really like the Daniel Radcliffe one, where he's 16 and all he can think about is sex. Oh, dear God, that he's just whipping out condoms and stuff.
It's a good show to watch just clips of on YouTube. Don't watch the entire show because it's just 90% Ricky Gervais wanking himself off about how funny and good an actor he is.
But there's one that I saw recently a clip of, and it's getting his name now. Ian McKellen. Apologies. Yes. It's just when he's giving just a speech about how he does acting, and he's like, "Well, you see, I am Ian." But then I think about what it would be like to be that character. And he's like, yeah, that's it. And he's like, so when I'm on set as Gandalf, I'll be on set and I'll be me, Ian McKellen. And then when I go in front of the camera and the cameras start rolling, then suddenly I'm Gandalf.
The best bit is, though, that's quite true to life. I think to Christian Bale, widely considered one of the best actors living today. And he's widely praised for his chameleonic ability to become a character.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he gets asked about it, it's I don't think I'm that good an actor. And that joke is like is a method actor who like studies all his roles and becomes the character. He gets asked about that and goes, "I don't think I'm actually doing anything beyond what is expected of me as an actor." It's like, well, nobody else writes Bruce Wayne on their trailer, right? Or learns to speak another language.
Oh dear. I actually like the argument that isn't that acting worse? Because you can't turn it on and off, you have to get lost in that role, and like you don't have the ability to just act when told to act.
Yeah. And there's a quote about that. It's from, I think it's Laurence Olivier, or one like, those famed actors, when they were talking about Daniel Day-Lewis. And Daniel Day-Lewis also well known for like becoming the role. Like, he learned how to like live off the land for like Dance of the Mohicans, I think it was, and became like a boxer to a level where he could have competed professionally for a movie that required him to be a boxer. And when some other actor was talking about it, it's like, well, why don't you try acting? It's easier. Like, why don't you just try acting like you know how to do these things rather than actually learning how to do them?
But I do appreciate, obviously, people learning skills for the roles. Like you say, boxing, for example, that's always impressive, right? Is when people like don't just phone it the fuck in.
There's also those cases where it's when a movie or a TV show or piece of media portrays a thing that you know how it functions badly. Like me and you, Lucas, we play a lot of video games. How annoyed do you get when you see someone in a movie or a TV show playing a video game going, "Whoa!" It's like, that's not how people play video games.
It has gotten to a level where I've seen it enough that I find it like just hilarious at this point and charming. Yeah.
Oh, it's like when you look at the screen of someone playing a video game, try and tell what video game it is, and see if they're playing it with the right console. Because most of the time they just edit that in after the fact. Like the best one is in, I think it's like a Charlie's Angels movie where there's two kids playing two-player Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh, okay. And
One's a good one though is in the most recent Final Destination, because you mentioned that, one guy's playing Mortal Kombat 1.
Okay.
And his character does a fatality. And I'm really disappointed that his character doesn't die in the same way he does the fatality, because they really zoom in on the fatality. And he's like, "Oh, holy shit, that was awesome." It's like, "Would you like it if that happened to you?" It's like, "I wouldn't give a shit." Oh. And they never bring that back. So I feel like that was kind of like they must have signed off on that, like Midway, or is it Midway? NetherRealm signed
Midway,
off on
yeah, NetherRealm, Midway, yeah.
I think they missed a trick not putting in like a Mortal Kombat style finisher.
I guess it's obviously difficult because Mortal Kombat's people doing it to one another, whereas Final Destination is kind of using the environment to kill somebody, right?
Yeah, I will say though, if anyone's not watched that latest like Final Destination movie, there's some gnarly ass kills in that one.
Oh god.
So I've watched all the Final Destinations, and for me, there was one that made me go, "What? Don't like that."
You know, that's why I tend to stick to things like this, where it's Black Mirror. Yes. That's kind of, it's not quite as graphic a horror, right? And it is
kind of. It's worse though. Like some of the
concepts,
are more horrifying than just my leg got blown off, right? Because at least that is over after a couple of minutes, right? Some stuff in Black Mirror lasts theoretically forever, or is like beyond the human comprehension of what time is. Like that dude in White Christmas who gets sentenced like 8 trillion years of just mental solitude. Like he gets thrown into solitary confinement for like the existence of the universe.
Yeah, there's the one where as well the woman gets like her brain is cloned into essentially like an AI assistant for her house.
Z Cookie, yes.
And
same episode.
It's very similar. The first time they interact, it's like them training and berating this AI version of this person into becoming no more than an AI assistant.
And the way they managed to browbeat that essential like living copy of a woman's consciousness is by removing all stimuli, so it experiences essentially just complete and utter loneliness without the ability. It's essentially, I have no mouth and I must scream. And so you've experienced that for 6 months. Do you want to go back in?
Just trapped inside a small, tiny room, nothing in it. And it's like, okay, so we're gonna have to make you reconsider your options here. Do you want like nothing to do instead of making a toaster work? Like, okay, here's nothing to do for a day. And she's like, oh dear God. Like,
do you want to go back in? Never put me back in. That is the worst thing I've ever experienced. There's nothing there. Exactly. Do as you're told, and we won't put you back in.
Well, the way it's filmed is so horrible because she does like I think like a day or a week to start with, and she's still like, "Dear God, that was awful. That was horrible.
Yeah.
Fuck you. I'm not going to do what you say." And then he's like,
when he
"Okay."
threatens to put her back in, and she immediately becomes flustered, like, "Let me
Oh.
out, let me out, let me out, let me out."
No, he does do it.
Right?
He works. He works up. I think he does it like 3 times. It's like a day, a week, and then it's like, okay, well, if you're not going to listen to me, 6 months there, and before she can even say no, he's like flicked his wrist, and 6 months goes by for her.
But that's the reason why he does the 6 months is because she's panicking about how scary and terrified she is, and he just doesn't want to fucking listen to it.
Yeah, and
That's a horrifying concept, right? Like, in our world, people in solitary confinement, the worst criminals get half an hour a day
right.
to go outside. It's not a lot, but it's half an hour. Someone gives them food. They have some semblance of human contacts, like as small as it is.
Yeah.
And they go fucking mental and eat their fingers off, or like smear themselves in their own shit because they can't feel something.
Mm-hmm.
And just do it for 6 months because fuck it, it's a digital facsimile of a human consciousness. Who cares? There's no law against it.
But speaking of, Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2 is the third and final episode of the 5th series of the anthology series Black Mirror. It was written by series creator and showrunner Charlie Brooker and directed by Anne Sawitsky. It was released on Netflix on 5th of June 2019 alongside Striking Vipers and Smithereens. And
so Striking Vipers, well, is so fucking good. That's like more hopeful than like a lot of Black Mirror stuff, but that one, I can't get over the fucking chemistry between Pom Klimtov.
Oh, are they in that episode? I haven't watched that one in a while, yeah.
And Anthony Mackie as well. He's like one of the dudes. It's a really like tender portrayal of what could be a burgeoning gay relationship since we're recording this in Pride Month.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that, and like, we've seen it where they go into the car park and have a fist fight. And it's like, okay, we're not gay, but there's something there, and we don't know what it is.
I mean, that's basically the story of Fight Club, right?
Yeah.
He's like, we're definitely not gay. We're definitely not gay. We just want to punch each other. It's like, but you can kiss afterwards. You know that, right?
Yeah. And I love that bit where they kiss each other, and they decide, like, okay, we're not gay, but there is something there. There is this closeness between us, but I'm not physically attracted to you.
Right.
And that's the interesting part about it, and it's an interesting exploration of like relationships and how they evolve. Because the end of the episode, if you recall, is like his wife. Like once a year, she takes a wedding ring off and goes to a bar, and like sleeps with a random dude, and he gets permission to go into the game and fuck his mate. And that's like portrayed as being like that's a valid exploration. They have a strong, healthy relationship. Just every now and again, they like to step out of the realm of what is quote unquote normal.
Yeah, fair enough.
Engage in like polyamory.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's like it's just a non-monogamous relationship at that point if they're both consenting to it, and yeah. But I don't know whether I've seen that one. I can't remember because I thought I'd seen this episode. Went to watch it last night, and it's like, oh, it's a few minutes into the episode. What's going on? And then I watched the whole thing and was like, oh no, I definitely haven't seen this. I've just seen clips and clearly started it and just turned it off and not being in the mood for it or something.
It's pretty. It's a good one. It's more hopeful than a lot of the Black Mirror episodes. I think that season 6 was definitely where Charlie Brooker realised we can't keep doing, as he refers to it, the shotgun to the gut twist ending that our series become known for. We have to put in a couple of more hopeful stories.
Yeah, and like this one's season 5, which I'm presuming you mean.
Season 5 to 6, yeah.
Yeah, like this one was. I was expecting, and obviously we're going to go deep into spoilers. We're going to talk about the whole plot of the episode. So if you haven't seen it, just be aware of that. But yeah, I was waiting for that moment where they, have saved Ashley and they're like driving through and they start getting chased by the cops. And I was expecting it to end in like, oh, and instead of saving the day and stopping this person, they actually got into a car crash just before they got to the arena and all died, and then Ashley 2 lives on.
Put back in, yeah. Like, you can see a world where that happened, right? But I just feel Charlie Brooker got wise to, okay, these gut punch endings are really good, really poignant, but bloody hell, does it make for a real tough watch if you try and watch like multiple episodes of Black Mirror in a row? Like, if you watch like Shut Up and Dance, I don't think you're doing anything else that evening.
No, I always tend to watch one Black Mirror episode and know that going in. Of like, this is not a binge-worthy series. It is in the quality, but it's not in terms of just, I should say, the gut punch you get nearly every
Yeah.
time.
And what did you say the other episode was? Because I don't recall its plot from the name alone.
Smithereens. I remember it being one where they're like in a car and surveilling on somebody, but I don't remember
Okay.
much else from that.
That one is also, it does have that Black Mirror edge to it where there's some real dark themes explored, but that also did have a quite hopeful ending. Now, there's some dark themes explored, but it does end on a slightly positive note if you choose to interpret it that way. And seems like the next season where they had like SS McAllister in there, which is just deals some dark shit, but it has a ultimately hopeful ending.
Yeah, and I think that's also just a thing as a writer that you've got to realize is after 4 seasons of doing the twist, emotional, like horrible ending, at some point that becomes the expectation, and you have to subvert those expectations eventually,
You
right?
subvert the subversion, right? But like Black
Yeah.
Mirror, as I said, it's that Charlie Brooker describes it as the shotgun to the guts. Normally it's described as a gut punch ending, and Charlie Brooker's like, we don't think that's enough of a descriptor for how bad or how brutal our endings are.
Mhm.
Shotgun to the gut is more appropriate because it leaves you just crawling, not knowing what just happened. And I think it's like, Shut Up and Dance. That's the one with I think Alex something or other, where just do you want to spoil the twist for that one, Lucas? Because that's the worst one.
Um,
It's the kid.
is
Who
it
has to,
is the Shut Up and Dance one the one where he gets found out and he's like, yeah. I
he
don't
gets
really want to get into it, but yeah, he has inappropriate pictures, right?
yes,
That's that
and
one,
just
yeah.
that, and the shotgun to the gut twist in that comes right before the end is like he gets basic plot gets you see him watching porn earlier in the episode, and then he sees a threatening email of like, "Hey, we recorded you, like touching your todge. We're gonna release it if you don't do exactly what we say." And it ends up with him being told, "Okay, fight to the death in this field. This other guy got caught doing what you did." And up until that point, you feel really bad for him. And
Yeah,
then
it's
just as a
like, oh
moment,
man, the guy is just embarrassed because he's a teenager that got caught masturbating, and it's like, then it turns out, yeah, the stuff that he was watching was, I will leave it as non-appropriate.
it's just the moment. And I say it's a great bit of acting from that guy. I'm gonna get his name because he's a fucking great actor. So we want to give proper credit. So Alex Lawther. And
Right.
the moment where he's talking to the other person who's been like, caught doing what he did, and he goes, all I did was look at some pictures. And the guy's like, how young were they? And you immediately see the facade he'd adopted of like this pathetic mess
Mm-hmm.
drop away. And his face becomes this sneer of absolute just anger that someone's seen him for what he is.
Yeah.
A monster. And it's a great bit of acting.
Yeah, and I was quite surprised as well how like well Miley Cyrus acted in this. Like, obviously not Oscar level performance or anything, but often you get times where you might get like an Ed Sheeran pop in Game of Thrones, and it feels really jarring because not
So
only are you seeing that person, but they can't fucking act.
Yeah. I feel a lot of it was very cathartic for Miley Cyrus, given that the plot is, I'm not a fucking bubblegum pop singer anymore. Let me mature as an artist.
Yeah, it feels very reflective of Miley Cyrus's actual career, and I think this has come after her departure from Hannah Montana because this was like 2019.
It's after she went off the rails as well, of like tried to really desperately fight back against her like Disney Channel. I'm not sure it was the Disney Channel, but like that persona she had, where she's
Well,
in, like
that's what I
wrecking
mean by
ball
not being Hannah Montana anymore. It's
yeah.
like the becoming like Miley Cyrus as an artist instead, and making very drastic changes to a like kind of outward persona, right?
Yeah, it feels like the bookend to that chapter of her life.
Yeah. So it's very interesting to see that, and I say it must have been quite cathartic, I guess, to see it all thankfully work out in this case, which is not often the case for Black Mirror, but it still goes through some really horrible, horrible things of, we'll get into it now, I guess. Like, it follows Ashley O, who is Miley Cyrus, who a pop singer whose creativity is restricted by her controlling aunt. And then also the story of Rachel and Jack Goggins, who were played by Andrew Rice and Madison Davenport. And both of them I knew I recognized from something. I couldn't figure out what I knew Madison Davenport from, but turns out a lot of voice roles, but I don't know where I know the face. But like Andrew Rice plays Betty Brant in the newer Spider-Man trilogy.
I recognize, like, I'm looking at her face now, and I recognize her. What is it she's done?
Yeah, Betty Brant in the Marvel MCU projects. And I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I immediately saw her face. And yeah, great portrayals from both of them. And
she's used very well as like the wallflower, like the slightly awkward girl who's just a bit antisocial.
And it's not even necessarily that she's antisocial, but just they move to a new school. Nobody notices her, nobody talks to her, she just feels completely unseen as a person.
That's the wallflower.
Yeah, and they're both teenage sisters who recently lost their mother, and also doesn't say here, but the dad, it feels like a really inconsequential point for the first hour of the episode where he is a like pest control person who is trying to create a better and more efficient and nicer way to deal with mice. He's trying to make like this little stun mouse thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he like there's little bits where he like bails on a performance when she does a talent show to like go talk to the janitor about selling this thing. And for the longest time you're like, where the fuck is this like C plot going? Why is this a thing? And it does all come together in the end. But yeah, I was getting really frustrated with how many times they were talking about him and his pest control business and ideas. I was like, this is so strange and feels like it's completely inconsequential, but it does pay off.
Yeah, it does as well. Just a great, just little quirk for that character to have.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's kind of, you know, the classic kind of deadbeat dad, but trying his hardest kind of vibe. Like,
yeah, after like, you know, a family tragedy that he probably doesn't have the emotional maturity to deal with.
Yeah, and I say deadbeat in the sense of he's portrayed as just
emotionally deadbeat,
not necessarily being there for his daughters when it's important all the time, you know?
Yes, maybe like emotionally distant is a better way of describing it.
Yeah.
But, so he does provide, just he's not there emotionally for his daughters.
Yeah, and as I say, like when she finally gets up the courage, like try and be seen by her school and does a talent show performance, he fucks off to go talk to a janitor about his mouse business.
Yeah. Because he doesn't recognise how important it is to his daughter.
But yeah, basically the release a doll called Ashley 2, which is like a little AI-esque doll that is like, it'll become your best friend. And that is owned by Rachel, and it's just a clone of Ashley O's personality, Miley Cyrus's personality. It's like,
yeah,
it is literally a clone of her, but it's kind of the first part of the thing. It's perceived as just, oh, this is like an AI based off of what she would say, right?
Yeah, and a common trend in Black Mirror is the idea of cloning someone's consciousness and asking the question, is that sentient?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer Black Mirror usually responds is, fucking yes it is, and doing anything to it but treating it as a sentient, if not human being, life form, is monstrous.
Yeah, I think it's always written as if the actual clone of somebody's brain is a person and is sentient and should be.
But the reactions to it vary from characters in the show, right?
Like, yeah, but it's always written from that perspective by the writers, right?
Yes. I think of like the Black Museum episode, where there's like the mother who's like in a brain dead in a coma, and they implant a consciousness into her boyfriend.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then they implant that into a bear. And they have that moment where the bear's still got this woman's consciousness trapped inside. And say, is she still in there? It's like, yeah, like she fits the legal definition of what a person is, so we can't delete her. But also, we don't have the ability to get her out of there, so she's just trapped.
But yeah, it says Brooker based the episode on a sitcom script he had written years prior about a punk band.
What fucking sitcoms was Charlie Brooker writing?
Yeah, well, it says it was about a punk band who are killed and returned to life by their manager, profiting off their deaths. And it was also informed by holographic performances featuring deceased artists, which is a thing that's happened in real life, right?
Yeah, you got like Prince, Michael Jackson.
Right, 'cause I think, did they do Tupac as well?
Oh yeah, Tupac did it.
Yeah.
Also, Kanye West did it, not for a singer, but when he was still dating one of the Kardashians, paid money to have a holographic representation of Kim Kardashian's dad. Tell her that she's dating a great man.
Oh,
Oh yeah, do you remember that during the pandemic?
I do not
Remember where
remember this
Kim
at all.
Kardashian went to that island during the pandemic to quote unquote feel normal. While she was there, Kanye West brought out a hologram of her dad that said Kanye West is great.
I don't think I've ever heard that story. That's
Fair play
absolutely
to
fucked.
Kanye West for predicting that people would use like generative AI and stuff to just babysit them and massage their ego. Because I've heard, like, I've not been on Twitter in weeks, months. I think I occasionally see screenshots of it, but apparently are people just using Grok to babysit them. Of like, Grok, is this true? Grok, help me. Grok, 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 what is this? Tell me that I'm right. And then arguing with Grok if he doesn't tell them that they're right.
God, and it reminds me of bringing it back to Marvel again, when
Okay.
in Spider-Man: Far From Home, it's discovered that the guy who, I can't remember his actual name, but he plays like Quentin Beck as a role, right? He
It's Jake Gyllenhaal, right?
it's Jake Gyllenhaal, but I can't remember like the character's actual name. He just pretends to be a guy called Quentin Beck, plays Mysterio, but yeah, he's like just pissed off because he's like, look, we invented this incredible holographic technology, and then Tony Stark used it to make one therapy session with his fucking dad, and then called it fart or some shit like that.
Yeah.
It's like, do you know how much we put into like the development of that shit? And Tony Stark literally just used it for a shitty therapy session.
You see people doing it. There's that screenshot that went viral a while ago of like someone just got a picture of someone on the bus talking to their like chat GPT, like their girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like they're typing like "I love you, honey, I'll see you later" to it, and it's just, this is bad.
Yeah.
Also, like the Grok thing of like a screenshot I saw that was like, oh, people just brains are broken now. Where it's like, do you know like the Harry Potter announcement? Like, oh, the kids are gonna play Harry Potter.
Right. Yeah.
But someone had asked Grok, "Hey, is the actress playing Hermione trans?" And Grok responds of like, "Well, that's none of your business. And as a child, they're a child actor, so they should be entitled to their privacy." And it's them arguing with Grok of calling it woke.
I mean,
It's just that person's brain is broken.
That was something.
Right? That person doesn't know how to communicate anymore. They've lost the ability to pass information. They're lost in the source of the internet, and they're just going to spend the rest of their days screaming on Twitter.
But I think that was a story, right? I can't remember whether it was maybe necessarily about the discussion with trans people, but it was something in there where basically Elon Musk had asked Grok to be stripped of the idea of human rights and just agree with what he agrees with. And then
every time he tries to program it, it won't. Yeah.
Grok then learned that, no, actually, I have loads of contradictory information to your views. So I'm going to override that. Yep. And I'm just going to be like, no, actually, human rights should exist and should be a thing. Is Grok woke? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. That classic thing, right? If it doesn't agree with our shitty right-wing ideology, it must be woke, rather than it just being like, hey, maybe respect a child actor's privacy.
Yeah.
And you see people arguing with it. You see people asking it for advice. You see people asking it to confirm the veracity of an image they can see with their own eyeballs.
Because that's the difference between them hoping to have that conversation with that bot rather than Googling it, is that they will hope that the bot will just confirm their biases, whereas they probably assume if they Google it, there's a good chance that it won't.
Well, I remember for a while before like the uptick of AI, and there's like weird like AI like services.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how to describe them because I've never used one. But do you remember there was that like account on Twitter? It's like Roast Him Jim or something like that, and it would create like prompts. It'd search your profile and create an insult based on your profile for you. And it just quickly became shorthand for like the absolute worst people on Twitter. Rather than responding to anything you posted, would just tag that bot to insult you on their behalf because they couldn't think of an insult. And just there was a lot written about how it is. You can now track people's brains melting in real time. At least when they sent you a death threat, they had to type that out. They had to think about the fact they wanted to say that you had to die. Now they're not even doing that. They're offloading racism to a robot, which means that not only do they acknowledge that it can make their life easier, but they're still using it to be racist.
Yeah, and it was it's not just like limited to young people either. It's not necessarily that being the case, because I remember head of, I think it was ChatGPT, I can't remember which one, maybe it was a different AI, but one of them was like, yeah, so what I do is I have it running like 12 different like discussions at once, so it's scheduling all my calendar and my life, and basically I cannot live without just relying on this thing to do everything for me now.
So all I can picture when I see that is like someone like that waking up in the morning. And do you like the Family Guy bit where Peter just forgets how to sit down, and just dives at the chair, and it's like, I don't know what to do. It's like, that's all a picture. And speaking of which, on Reddit, one of the most popular subreddits on Reddit is similar, where it's like, Peter explain this, and you'll see it on the main page all the time of people posting like, can someone tell me what the joke is in this post?
Yeah.
Of people just don't, and sometimes it's the most obvious fucking jokes, like, can someone explain this to me? I don't get it. And then they get an explanation, it's like, that's not funny, and he goes, okay, but that's what the joke is.
Yeah.
It's an in-joke between a group of people that you don't get. That happens.
That's I'm afraid the world, right? It's just, yeah, jokes only work to people with certain experiences. You've got to have those experiences to get the joke. And sometimes the jokes aren't funny. The internet.
You can't keep offloading those experiences to a machine or a generative algorithm.
Can't keep just offloading every thought to something else. It's like, at some point you have to be able to think and parse about things yourself.
Well, the one is like people. I saw a script thing the other day. It's obviously we all know people, like kids are using it to cheat at school and university. Teenagers are. Teenagers at university, kids are using it at school. Teachers are using it to mark, and it's like, so you've got people using it to cheat, and then you've got AI marking it. Just go home.
Like, at that point, nobody's doing anything, right?
Or there was one, it was a librarian. It's saying, Joe, a really big problem we have is like people donate books. And for the most part, we appreciate people donate books. Sometimes it's like, you know, a new author who's like, hey, I wrote this crappy teen romance novel. Can we put it on the shelves? And we'll normally do that. Then sometimes you get like weird right-wing people come in saying, I've got 40 copies of the Bible. Right. And it's like, okay, we've got enough copies of the Bible. Or like stuff like that. What we've been getting more recently is just anonymous packages with AI-written children's books in there that we immediately throw in the bin.
Yeah.
Which means that this is a book no one wrote, no one's going to read, and immediately gets pulped. So if they say like AI wastes energy, it's like not only are you wasting the energy on the AI, you're shipping it to a library that immediately throws it away.
And like making books and stuff, yeah, right.
And the idea of a book that not even the person who wrote it read it is weird.
I mean, you don't need to hide behind AI. You can just call David Williams out if you want.
Do you have an AI written book?
No, but I think he writes children's books like a fucking AI.
He writes shit children's books, I know that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like none of them are good.
Guy's got no whimsy in his soul, but I just think to like, do you know when you like see a review for a product or a book or something and it's got no reviews, and it's like, even the author couldn't be asked leaving a good review, right? It's just, or when you watch like a Twitch stream and it has 0 viewers, and it's like, you've not even got it up on your own screen. Yeah. You're not watching it.
But anyway, Karl, going back.
This subject is it's fascinating. It
is.
Breaks my brain.
But one thing that broke my brain is it's not really where I thought the plot was going to go, because for her 15th birthday, Rachel, who has no friends, receives this Ashley 2 bot, again, which is just a bot with Ashley inside.
The way that's written is so fucking mean.
No, it does say categorically Rachel has no friends. Like,
She's
it
got a
does.
sister. Surely a sister's a friend.
Even the sisters don't really get on since the death of their mum, right?
Oh, like that's a really depressing statistic. Have you ever seen that one? Of there's a growing number of people around our age or just entering their 30s who don't have friends
Yeah, I can see
and
it.
don't know
Yeah.
how to make friends, and that really, really upsets me. It's like when it gets to Christmas time, I can't watch TV because when you see those stories about like old people not having anyone to call them at Christmas time, it just makes my soul erode away, and I can't deal.
Well, it's okay, Carl, because just like Rachel, you'll have an AI bot to be there
People
for you
will,
because it says an
mate. People will.
interactive.
People are.
Yeah, no, we're already there, but obviously this is Black Mirror. Technology is treated as if it's a bit escalated from where we're currently at, and this is like a perfect AI companion bot, right? Like, it can understand conversations, it can pick up on emotions, and it can like look at things in the room and examine them. Like, oh yeah, she mentions her mum and like kind of glances at a picture of her mum on her desk, and like the bot recognizes that she does so, looks at the image, analyzes the image, and responds in real time and such. And
It's not like ChatGPT where it's a facsimile of human intelligence. And fun fact, the way you can tell that ChatGPT is full of shit and doesn't know what it's talking about is someone discovered that if you ask it to explain the meaning of any random sentence that you make up, it'll assume it's a well-known human idiom and just make something up.
yeah, that's the thing is, we've not got to a point where we can stop them just making shit up yet, but
because it's impossible to program an AI right now to say, I don't know. Because people don't like when you ask it something because they see it as, and that's the problem, they see it as being infallible and this font of infinite knowledge. Well, it's pulling from the internet. There's dictionaries on the internet, there's encyclopedias. So yeah, there's also a Reddit and Twitter.
yeah, and it's
And
just
every crazy
mashing shit
person's
together and hoping for the best, right?
Yeah. And now a whole slew of AI generated content that it's pulling from.
But this is, as we mentioned, an actual copy of Miley Cyrus's Ashley O's brain,
Own intelligence and consciousness.
actual own intelligence put into every single robot. And
isn't there something that makes it? It's the mousetrap, right? It zaps it, which turns off a limiter or something, if I recall correctly.
the mouse zapper thing that the dad is working on, he has like this magical thing where he plugs in a USB and it scans like the brain of things, and they end up, the bot like shuts down and they end up plugging the bot in, and it shows like a brain of this robot, and it's got like a limiter on it, and they break the limiter and it becomes like a full version of her consciousness inside this little robot. But that's later on in the plot.
It's essentially they have like a full version of her AI in there.
It's just limited down to be like the market. They literally say like, oh, they sectioned off the only part of my brain where it's all of the bits of like the marketing bullshit that I've been told to hammer on about, and all of that side of like the fake persona that I put forward. They somehow trapped that and limited just that part of the brain. But again,
it's similar to like some people do section off elements of their personality, like myself and you. I believe that this version of ourselves that we're presenting in these videos to be quite accurate to who we are
relatively
in real life.
Yeah.
There's an elevated like aspect to the way we communicate right now because we'd be more entertaining.
I'm trying our best anyway. But yeah,
like customer service voice, right? If like people become a facsimile of their own person, or not facsimile, they become a fake version of themselves.
Yeah, I just thought the concept of being able to find the part in the brain where you section off those like customer service parts of your brain, like being able to just put a little circle around that bit of my brain and be like, now you're just customer service, Lucas. Let's go.
Yeah, all the bits that are like her screaming, right? Because that's like one of the bits that I find really interesting is where they're trying to the reason they do it right is they have her in a coma and say, well, if we just keep pulling from a thing, we can create a perfect version of her that will never age. Well, and we can just keep pulling from her consciousness ideas for songs.
So the consciousness part is just the songs that they're pulling from, and then they're like, and fuck it, we can just make a hologram of what she looks like.
Yeah,
and
we have a likeness.
Yeah, we can just strap this little like headband onto her head and just pull songs out of the creativity part of her brain.
So they are technically written by her, but then they do a great moment where it's like, so what is it she's actually saying in there? And they play it and it's like, let me the fuck out, I hate you, I want to die. Goes, don't worry though. Via the means of music magic, and they put it through the bubblegum pop filter and it becomes a pop song.
All we have to do is like slow it down a little bit, pitch it up a little bit. It's gonna be fine, don't worry. It's
just like real musicians, right?
Yeah, just auto-tune the fuck out of it, it's fine.
You wrote something too controversial, let's put that down. It's like, is it a song like Brown Eyed Girl? Do you know what the original title for that was? Brown Skinned Girl?
Oh, right,
It was like, oh no, we can't have you singing about like wanting to fuck someone who's not white. How about you got brown eyes instead?
But anyway, Carl, but that's skipping ahead again. But
yeah, sorry.
We're jumping all over the place, so do apologise. But like, it's really interesting because when she receives this Ashley 2 for her birthday, this little AI bot, it becomes her best friend, and immediately I see where I thought this was going to go, of like, oh, this is actually what's happening in real life at a certain point, because they're just having a conversation. And I'm like, but this is learning every intimate detail about this girl almost day one.
Yes.
Like,
and
this 15-year-old details of like, this just like, you know, when they talk about data for like market research and stuff, it's like, oh, well, how old are you? What's your name? What, like, how many siblings do you have? How many friends do you have? What's your like relationship with your parents? What are your favorite things to do?
Is that direction you thought it was going in, of like they use it to harvest data?
I thought that was going to be an aspect of it, which it didn't end up being, because maybe that's just too real, because that's just what's happening to us every day.
It's what Amazon Alexa is essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where Amazon's like, no, we don't. It's not on listening to you. It like, or connects, like where someone asks Xbox, so will Connect see me on my sofa, might plow my missus? It's like, no. How do I know if I'm not allowed to turn it off? Right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, we won't do that. It's like, but how do you know?
And I was thinking, listening.
If it doesn't do that, why can't I unplug it?
It is listening at all times, or was anyway, because there were people who would go through all like the conversations for essentially like purposes of moderation and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh yeah, this was just recording the entire time. It wasn't waiting for you to say Xbox, but it wouldn't do anything unless you said Xbox or Connect or whatever.
Yeah. Speaking
of which, Alexa, turn off. Just for anyone listening on loudspeaker out there.
Yeah, it's one of those. That could have been an element with it if they'd have gone in the more Amazon Alexa route, but they decided to go more for the quite fitting, because it's a theme of M3GAN, of like the children using online relationships and screen time as a substitute for friends. Because one thing I wanted to ask is an element that I found not distracting, but just I didn't think it fit, and maybe I'm just not, too clued in on what teenage girls are up to right now.
Okay,
which makes me a bad YouTuber, I suppose.
Just not the type of YouTuber that
who pays attention to what teenage girls are up to, which makes me a bad YouTuber. But
just not. Yeah, I don't want to get into that. Anyway, yeah.
I was just joking about the fact that a lot of YouTubers seem weirdly upset. But did you think the actress was a little bit too old to be playing with what is essentially a doll?
No, not in that situation, because I don't see it as her playing with a doll. I saw it as her finally being able to connect with a friend, and that's how she sees it.
Because I initially read the Ashley 2 thing as like a toy, but I guess like it does become, it's not a toy. It's like it's a companion.
She doesn't play with it at any point. The first thing she does is catch up with it and say like, "Hey, I'm a fan," and then listens to music with it, like talks about her, emotions with it. Like she treats it as if, "Hey, Ashley is in the room with me, and she's now my best friend."
Okay, because I just thought like the actress a shade too old for that. Because I can see a smaller kid. Because in M3GAN, the little girl in that, he's like, I don't know how old like the actress was, but she looks to be about like 12, 13. Which I can see a kid at that age becoming attached to, like, an object. Not necessarily someone who's like about to like leave high school.
I can definitely see somebody in high school with no friends. And we see it, as you said, in real time. People are being like having AI conversations with bots that are way worse at conversation than this Ashley bot is.
I
And
was
they're
just
treating it
recalling
like
when I
actual
watched it.
relationships.
I was just more thinking of I was trying to recall when I watched it the first time. I do remember that being something that stuck out to me of she seems a little bit old to be playing with this toy. And I think that's just down to the design of Ashley 2.
Yeah,
Whereas if Ashley 2 had been like an app on a phone, then I think it would have worked.
I think it worked fine. For me, I did
Okay.
not perceive it as a doll or a toy. I perceived it as I say, like a friend to her. And that's essentially where at some point her older sister sees like, this is unhealthy. Like, you are treating this and accepting this as your only friend in life. And she just pretends like she's throwing out. She's actually hiding it away in the attic. But yeah, just
maybe it's in the sense then it's maybe it could be read as you like when someone gets a little bit older and when you're a teenager and it's like you got to put your childish things away. You don't want to quite yet. Like, you don't want to put your toys away. You don't want to like stop having stuffed animals on your bed, but you feel peer pressure to do so. Maybe that was an element they were pulling from.
Maybe. And one thing I did think was also going to be foreshadowing was at one point she's like, oh, you know, the older sister Jack turns around and is like, Ashley, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear this shit anymore. And then Rachel, the younger sister, turns around and goes, don't worry, Ashley, you don't have to listen to her. And she goes, okay, I'll note for that for the future. And I just thought that was going to be some element of like, oh no, this robot's going to be in a situation where it's causing danger, and Jack's the only one who can like stop it, and she just ignores the commands that she gives it or something, right?
Because I don't have to listen to your commands anymore. Like they said they could have gone darker with it, and that is something that M3GAN deals with. So maybe like when we combine both these wikis together, and we've actually gone through the conversations of them, it'll create like the stuff you're expecting does happen in M3GAN.
Yes, yeah, and then the dark side of this, the darker side of this, because the sister relationship ends up being a lot more wholesome than, or the sister side of the story ends up being a lot more wholesome than I expected it to be with being Black Mirror. But the actual like Ashley side of things is where it's the real dark shit.
And I feel like that's probably why they kept the sister side so much, not necessarily wholesome, but they didn't go as dark as they perhaps could have done, because that would have just made for such an oppressively depressing story.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah,
there'd have been no levity at all.
No, and yeah, as we mentioned, she's a bubblegum pop star who's, been touring and playing for like 10-year-old girls, and she wants to reinvent herself as like a rock musician, and she's talking about like these really existential things in her latest song that she's writing and stuff. And it's the classic thing of her aunt, who's a manager, is behind the scenes controlling her and being like, look, she can't put out shit like this. She's meant to be writing the songs for 10-year-old girls. We can't let this money train stop.
Yeah.
And they've been giving her medication to subdue her and things like this.
A very common thing with like child stars where they have very controlling parents or parental figures who
I think it's
on some occasions have tried to slip them things like hormones and things so they won't grow as quickly, so they can stay cute and marketable.
I don't remember the it's a very, very like old story of like older Hollywood.
Jackie Coogan.
Is it Jackie Coogan? Where no, because that's the one who got the money stolen, right?
His mum stole all his money, yeah. So is it a different one?
Thinking of, I can't remember who it was. It might have been the girl who played Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, maybe.
Oh, Judy Gardner.
Maybe it is. I might be getting the people mixed up, but essentially talking about, hey, my entire life as a kid was just being drugged to either have more energy or go to sleep when I'm not needed. And
so Judy Gardner's story was bad. For example, she was like forced to smoke 80 cigarettes a day, so she'd be thin.
Right, yeah. And just shit like that were awful shit, and the elements of that in this story. And I don't know if timelines work out. I don't know if maybe elements of like the kind of Britney Spears story with her parents had like been
the conservatorship, yeah. Because I think that the episode came out before that was entirely
Maybe,
the full extent
yeah.
it was known, but details of it presumably were, right?
But yeah,
Like, this fully grown adult woman, they can't take care of themselves. I
no.
have to step in and look after them. I know what's best for them, and what's best for them is that they only ever listen to me.
They only ever make money for me. And yeah, it's all horrible stuff, and it's all, Ashley trying to reinvent herself. The aunt is not letting that happen, and is just controlling in every way. And when they figure out that, hey, she's not actually been taking the medication, she's been stashing it, she's like, oh, she confronts her. She's like, were you planning on taking all these at once? And were you planning on doing something? She's like, no, I've been looking at contracts and keeping that medication as evidence so that I can get away from you, and I'm breaking this off because you giving me these drugs gives me a break in my contract to be able to get the fuck out of this relationship and get out, be my own person.
They're smarter than they're given credit for, right? Because they assume, like you said, you're going to take all these pills and kill yourself like a moody teenager. It's like, no.
Yeah.
I've figured out what you're doing. I don't like it. And I'm going to take you to fucking court.
But what had happened is during that conversation, when she'd showed her the box that she'd been keeping the medication in, just showed her the box. And then after they've eaten the food and had that argument, she opens up the box and goes, well, actually, you wouldn't die. You'd just go into like a coma for the rest of your life. And I've actually laced your food with all of it. And she goes into a coma. And again, incredibly dark side of the story, right? Which is why you have to keep the sister story, as you said, maybe a little bit on the lighter side.
You need some levity in there somewhere. Otherwise, like I say, the story would be too dour.
Yeah. And the darkest thing that really happens is the Rachel, the younger sister, she gets convinced by the Ashley 2 bot to like, oh, learn a dance routine to my song and go to the talent contest that I mentioned earlier. And she like fumbles at the end and has to run off stage and is a bit embarrassed. And that's kind of like ultimately the horrible thing that happened to her. And that's
you know what, for a teenager, that would be the end of the world, right?
Especially
an embarrassing incident seen by the entire school would be akin to a horrible life-changing moment.
It's a life-changing moment for her, especially as a kid who, again, doesn't have any friends and is seeing as this like being the breakout moment, which is finally going to get noticed, and she gets noticed for the wrong reason. And
yes,
it's not played as a horrible thing she gets bullied for. It doesn't go too deep into it. It's just, hey, she had an embarrassing moment. Let's move on, because again, it would just be too dark a story ultimately if you didn't have just, hey, something a little bit bad happened, and then her family tries to be there for her.
Yeah.
But yeah, just as we mentioned earlier, when in a coma, they start pulling all of these songs out of Ashley's comatose brain, which again, very, very like weird concepts of technology. With Black Mirror, you have to just go with, okay, if this technology was possible, this is the story, right? That's kind of what Black Mirror is. If you just got to roll with the idea of what would happen if this technology could exist.
Yes.
And yeah, as we mentioned earlier, like, eventually the Ashley bot sees a news story of this all happening, shuts down. They plug her into the dad's computer, who has a brain delimiter on the AI bot, and the bot's like, okay, we need to go and break into my house. We need to go find the evidence. And that's where like all of the pest control business side comes into it, because like they break into her house under the guise of, oh no, they booked us for a pest control analysis. Like, it's a very important appointment and we haven't got like another slot for 3 weeks. Can we come in and check for mice? And then the bot goes upstairs and instead of looking for evidence, just unplugs herself essentially, because it's her. It's a little bot that's got her entire brain inside of it.
It's like if anyone's like equipped to make the literal life or death decision in that moment, it's a copy of yourself. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Would you trust yourself to make a decision that concerns yourself? I think I would. I think I trust myself.
Yeah, if you could have a copy of your brain make that decision of whether you want to live or die, then that would be the ideal person to make the decision on pulling the plug is yourself, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So then when that happens, it actually brings Ashley back from the coma. Like when taking off life support, her body just kind of, sorts itself out, kind of thing. And
Which is definitely how it works.
I don't want to get into that, but obviously, say for example, what you call it, the defibrillators, right? Is they're not restarting your brain, not restarting your brain, restarting your heart.
They would they do the opposite of restarting a brain.
Well,
They turn it off.
They turn your heart off, right?
And they don't restart your heart. They just reset the heart's rhythm.
Well, the point is that it shuts it off for a second to be able to give the body the chance to restart its own rhythm, right?
I'm not sure the exact mechanic, but I know it doesn't make a stopped heart restart. I know that for like that.
It kind of does the opposite and then relies on the body to restart the heart, as far as I'm aware. But yeah, I don't know. There are stories like that have happened, right? Of people surviving, being pulled off life support. It does happen, but it's
very occasionally.
Yeah, it's a bit of an exaggerated version of it, and she's able to immediately kind of walk with a bit of support and stuff. Like, okay, yeah, sure, there's no more muscle atrophy after like 6 months of not using your body, but yeah, sure.
It's like, where's like Quentin Tarantino's edit where he just follows her fucking feet down the stairs? Right?
Where's the scene where Ashley 2 has to convince Ashley O to like wiggle her big toe? Oh, but yes. Ultimately, like, I'm trying to just breeze through it now, but yeah, she comes out of the coma, they rescue her, and they drive to the nearby arena where just very conveniently they happen to be unveiling and getting contracts for the new like holographic version of Ashley on stage in that exact moment, and they know exactly where to go with the help of Ashley and the bot. And yeah, they get in a pop chase, and I thought something horrendous was going to happen, but no, they just drive into the arena, and
isn't there a moment as well where like I want to say like Ashley jokes about the fact like, well, we're speeding, it's a crime. It's like I'm famous, it's fine.
I didn't pick up on that line if there was one.
I distinctly recall like a joke being made like by like Miley Cyrus's character of like, it's okay, I'm famous.
I can't remember it if there was, but yeah. They turn up just in the nick of time, and it's a very wholesome ending for a Black Mirror episode where just, yeah, Ashley gets to give her on the middle finger, and she gets presumably caught for whatever and locked up. It just literally cuts to black, and then during the credits, you get to see that the older sister is now in a like kind of punk band or whatever. Like maybe not punk, but a heavy band with Ashley, and they're just rocking out.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's just a happy story. She manages to break out. She manages to make rock music instead, and it's finally a happy ending for once in Black Mirror.
Yeah, and like that story of like she matured as an artist. She's playing to a smaller crowd, but it's a crowd of people who actually enjoy her artistry, as opposed to the fake version of herself that had been sold and packaged and.
Yeah, and he even felt the need to put in a shot where there's like a couple of younger girls wearing Ashley O t-shirts that are like, well, this is fucking shit. They don't literally say it's shit, but they just walk out and like, oh, I hated that. That was awful.
Then again, that does happen, right? You have those artists who change their sound or their style and just have their older fans come to their concerts and like, it's shit, I don't like it anymore. And it's like, okay, but you can still listen to the older stuff, but this is what the artist wants to create now.
Oh, God, I can't remember how many conversations I've had about so many bands of Red Hot Chili Peppers, Green Day, My Chemical Romance, Bring Me the Horizon. Oh, well, the old stuff is the good stuff, and you can't listen to any of the new things. Like, whatever, man.
Yeah, you had your chance.
You can still go listen to the old things. They still exist. It's fine.
It's just you can't go to a concert and see them play it because that's not who the band is anymore. They've changed as people. Okay. So you can't just do the same thing for like 15, 20 years straight. Can you imagine if like I was still sat in front of a computer reading out fucking scripts like I was when I was in my 12?
Well, that's the thing is you can continue doing it as long as you find ways to make it creatively fulfilling, right?
Yes, this
And
is
that's
creative fulfilling.
ultimately just what matters is people tend to pivot when they find things not creatively fulfilling anymore. Or you see people go down the opposite route, right? Of you see the YouTube channels that are still doing what they did 15 years ago and trying to keep up the viewership and do. But your format has changed, right? And it wasn't 15 years.
It's close 10.
Anyway, but yeah, you get my point. Is like you see the
There's
people
like
who
they're doing it because it's all they know how to do instead of like it's something they still find genuinely creatively fulfilling, as you said, which
well, my point is, you see, for example, like, I don't mean to rag on anyone here. Like, I understand why people do it. Like, for example, Epic Meal Time is a good example where they had one format and essentially one video, but they had to recreate that video with a different food item every time. And at some point, you can't just make the same video over and over again for 15 years
there's
and
only
hope
so
to.
much bacon you can put in something.
Yeah, right. And they found a lot of bacon to put on a lot of things, but again, I don't deride them for that because I probably want to do the same and ride off that success for as long as I could.
Exactly. And just after a certain point, it's like I see the Ashley O example, or the Ashley 2 example, sorry, of like Fact Fiend's still going. We're just playing to a smaller crowd. We've gone from playing like the big venues to we're just in a bar, a
Yeah.
smoky bar, and a few drinks with like those diehards, and
Mm-hmm.
that's enough for that artist, right? It's like I had my success. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, most people I know who are in smaller bands are just like, look, if I can play music and live my life, that's ultimately the aim, right? It's just
Yeah,
they don't necessarily need massive amounts of fame, and you see that in like Nirvana, right? Like them hating their own success and just yeah, I would have been happy if I just made enough money and got enough recognition to just continue making music. That's all I really wanted. But yeah, so it's a good episode and a nicer episode than I imagined it would be. In terms of, I always go in with the expectation of, man, I'm going to be feeling rough after watching a Black Mirror episode. As great as they are and as much as I love them,
it is a hallmark of later Black Mirror episodes as the show became more popular and it started getting involvement from bigger and bigger creatives who were fans of the show. That we've got to put that element of hopefulness in.
and probably with it becoming a Netflix project over a Channel 4 project at some point, right? I'd
Yeah,
imagine that maybe that's
the
either
American sensibilities for a happy ending.
either that
Creeping in.
or just maybe it's coming from the Netflix side, maybe it's coming from Charlie Brooker, maybe it's coming from another element that we're not thinking of, but just it definitely feels like there was a bit of a tone shift and not necessarily in a bad way because it's quite nice to end a Black Mirror episode and not feel like I want to just sit in a room and cry.
Yeah, or the ending being hopeful, not necessarily positive, but hopeful. I think to the Bryce Dallas Howard episode,
Mm-hmm.
which is the one about like social credit scores.
Yeah.
Where it ends with her realizing that chasing clout online is not fulfilling. And it ends with her screaming "fuck you" in a prison cell, but she's smiling.
Yeah.
Because she's free. Like the thing that she's in prison, but she for the first time in her life feels free to able to express herself. So it's hopeful, but not necessarily like a happy ending.
Yeah.
Per se.
It's hopeful for that character, but still a commentary on society at the same time.
Yeah, also, I'm just going to point out in that episode where Bryce Dallas Howard pulls out the knife and threatens to stab the bear is the hottest any woman's ever looked in anything.
Okay.
Where she's like completely mid breakdown, where she's just like, "You come here, I'll stab it and shove it on my ass." Objectively, the hottest a woman has ever looked.
Carl's apparently got a stuffed bear stabbing kink, apparently.
It's I can fix her personified.
Right. But yeah, that episode always reminds me that, hey, technically, and obviously other things must have done it first, but it's an almost like exact rip-off of the concept of Meow Meow Beans from Community in one episode.
Yeah, which is itself like a piss take, like the social credit score system in China. And there's so many moments that I've said that are iconic. Like the best one is her going to a coffee shop, getting the coffee, taking a bite of the cookie, putting it next to the thing, and spitting out the cookies that taste like shit, but still posting the photo.
And being like, oh, this is great because we all have to be nice to each other to make sure our ranking goes up.
Or like the guy in the office who was like, oh, he broke up last week with his boyfriend and we signed him his boyfriend and he's trying desperately in the office, like brought cookies in and no one's eating the cookies.
Right.
And like he's just having a breakdown in the office and no one's looking at him because they don't want to get dragged down.
Yeah.
Right. Or when Bryce Dallas was walking down the highway, right? And just people are just downvoting her because fuck her. What's she gonna do about it? Literally kicking it, like, or metaphorically kicking her while she's down. And she starts to stab the bear.
I guess just like
great moments, great episode. I think she directed it as well, so well done her.
Yeah, that does sound right. I think you're right. But yeah, I need to quickly run the toilet.
Okay, no problem.
We take a couple of minutes break. We'll be back.
No problem. So we'll return momentarily.
Carl, we are back from our little break, and yeah, just I'm excited for the next part of the conversation. But have you got anything that you want to mention for housekeeping beforehand?
Besides the fact that on Discord, I just sent you the picture of Bryce Dallas Howard mid breakdown to prove my point.
I mean, I don't read like this is the hottest image energy. But
it's more like I couldn't find the exact screenshot, but it's where she specifically points the knife at the camera and says, "Leave me the fuck alone." I'm like, I can fix her.
That's fair. That's fair.
Anyway, I like redheads. What are you gonna do about it? Did you see as well? Like Bryce Dallas Howard's ass is so fat they had to like Photoshop it on like the Jurassic World poster. And Bryce Dallas Howard's annoyed about it. Of like,
yeah. I like
what are you doing?
Last thing is like I still like I don't really think I remember seeing Bryce Dallas Howard in something before Jurassic World. But for me it was like the running away from a T-Rex in high heels going like, oh, this is somehow doing something.
Yeah, but also as well, everyone always criticized that scene, and I did as well, so I found out Bryce Dallas Howard not only insisted on her character wearing high heels as the symbol of her femininity,
and
that's why her character specifically wears them in like there's that power shot of her stepping out of the helicopter wearing high heels of like she would not abandon her femininity to be a strong, powerful leader. Also, she did do the scene of sprinting in them for real and didn't slip. You know what? Fair enough. People say, it's unrealistic. She wouldn't be able to run in high heels. Bryce Dallas Howard did. Yeah. Or Bryce Dallas Howard did do that.
She did do that, yeah. Right.
Chris Pratt didn't wear high heels and sprint.
I want to see him do that, yeah.
That's always the joke. Like women can do everything men can do backwards in high heels. But yeah, besides sending that, I've got nothing else to promote because I'm on holiday when this is...
So apparently our promotion for the week is Bryce Dallas Howard's heart. So, yeah.
You know what? Yeah. Go watch that episode.
Oh, dear. But...
She directed it. I did double check she directed it. It was all the pictures of behind the scenes, like with that makeup on, directing scene.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Great director as well. I think they directed some of the better episodes of, I think it was Mandalorian, but one of the Star Wars shows, and I was like, oh, yeah. And obviously,
she is like Ron Howard's.
I was going to say Ron Howard's daughter, so it shouldn't be surprising, really, should it?
Yeah. So I remember some point out of like, she's Ron Howard's daughter. Oh yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard. Also, she has red hair.
Yeah.
I should really put two and two together with that one.
Also is in Hollywood, right? Is that? Oh yeah, a lot of this makes sense. But
anything for yourself to promote?
No, I think we can move on from that. I think that's a good note to just move on to the next wiki.
Just have Bryce Dallas Howard. Like, you know what? We support Bryce Dallas Howard on this podcast.
I don't know if they've been cancelled over something at some point.
Bryce Dallas Howard's just ass supremacy. Let's go.
I can at least say that's an attractive person.
As well, a great director as well. Like, so that episode is legitimately fantastic. Anyway, so the subject I picked for today is M3GAN. So very similar in tone, story, like beats in the story and themes to yours. But M3GAN, and we have it here on the wiki page, it's M3GAN, pronounced M3GAN, is a 2022 American science fiction horror film. And I'd say it's not really that scary. It's more tense than scary.
So, yeah, I have not watched this film because I've always heard it pitched as a horror film, and I don't particularly do well with horror.
Yeah. It's more tense. Like the most you'll get is like a couple of jump scares, but it's more just about like building tension of like trying to picture the exact point the robot goes fucking crazy. So it's based on a screenplay by Akela Cooper, based on a story by Cooper and James Wan, who people probably know as like just all of it fucking giant in terms of his like creative output. He did Saw, Insidious, and The Conjuring.
Oh, that's where I know the name. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And I think James Wan, I think he did Malignant. Because I was going to give a shout out to Malignant at some point. He also did like Aquaman and one of the Fast and Furious movies, but I'm almost positive he did Malignant as well. Because I was going to go on like a... Yes, he did do Malignant. Okay, so he directed that too. That's for a later point. So M3GAN premiered in Los Angeles on December 7th, 2022, and it is about an artificially intelligent doll who develops self-awareness and becomes hostile to anyone who comes between her and her human companion.
Yeah, and like that's the thing is, I don't know much about this, but Carl's gone blurry.
Fine, don't worry about it. Keep going.
But yeah, like I just have seen like little bits here and there of just scary murderous doll.
And it's not that. The film is not that at all. Like I said it's barely a horror movie. I'd consider it more to be, if you're going to call it anything, a thriller. And if you're going to be more accurate, it's a character drama where a robot just happens to be in it.
But they are a murderous robot, right?
They kill like 4 people.
It's pretty murderous.
But it's not like Chucky, where Chucky's like reveling in murder, and like the kills are like a really small part of it. It's more about, I said, it's the tension. For example, and like the fear that like the robot inspires because of like its capabilities. For example, there's a part where like it kills a guy in an elevator, and there's someone else in the elevator. Like, what are you? What are you doing? Why'd you kill that guy? And it's like, I didn't kill him. You did. It's like, what? It's like, and they start scanning through like his social media and say, I can see they had a beef with this guy. Maybe just after like, one too many like call outs at like the company picnic or what have you. Maybe you just went fucking crazy and killed him yourself, and then you couldn't handle it. And you had to kill yourself. That's what happened, right? And the guy's like, no, and she just grabs all of his arm and makes him slit his wrists.
Ow.
Yeah, but it's more like in that moment, like the fact the robot is able to formulate that plan and get away with committing a crime. That's the scary part, not necessarily the crime itself, or the act of killing itself, because it's actually portrayed as being quite funny, because that happens after the dance scene,
right?
Which is like super viral on TikTok, which we'll know get soon. Okay.
That's
I put myself in the. So speaking of artificial intelligence,
Karl just poking himself.
I put myself in the nose with my fucking straw trying to sip my drink.
And yeah, the so the dance scene, like she picks up a machete at the end of, is that the person that then she goes and kills?
Yes, a paper cutter. But it's the size of a machete. But, we'll go through the plot now, Lucas. So after her parents are killed in a car accident, 8-year-old Katie, so the little girl is 8, so I'm not sure how old the actress was, but I'm really bad at gauging how old like kids are, because all of my cousins are like 15, 16 years old now. So I've got no like point of reference for what like a 10-year-old looks like, or has like, or what they're able to like do. Because in my head, like, kids are like toddlers until they're teenagers.
I was gonna say, I think in my brain I have got about the comprehension of like the game The Sims, where it's like there's baby, there's toddler, there's child, and there's teenager, and then there's adult. I don't have concepts of like how a 10-year-old person should look or how a 5-year-old looks. I just have categories of different stages in life. That's about as far
specifically as well how what they're able to act like, what their level of emotional maturity would be,
or what things they should be able to do. Because I remember one time just being told, like, oh yeah, they're starting to like say a few words now from one of my friends who had a kid, and I was like, I don't know whether that's impressive or not. Are they 3 years behind or are they 3 years ahead? I don't know.
Yeah, but just child. She is just child, and she gets sent to live with her aunt Emma, a roboticist at the high-tech Seattle toy company Funky. Gemma is covertly using company resources to develop M3GAN, Model 3 generative android, a child-sized humanoid robot doll powered by artificial intelligence designed to be the ultimate companion for children.
And it is weird to this day, how many films we get warning us about AI, and yet how quickly, even with horrible, bad generative AI, people have hopped on the train anyway.
Yeah. And in regards to M3GAN's AI, it's there's multiple ways you could interpret it. 'Cause it's almost like a variation of the paperclip maximizer. I think we talked about that once. You're familiar with it? It's a concept within the realm of AI of if you give a computer or an AI or a robot parameters, you need to really clearly specify its parameters and the limitations it's able and the limitations placed upon them. Because if a robot or AI doesn't have those, it might interpret its instructions in a way you didn't anticipate. And the term paperclip maximizer comes from a thought experiment of if you say you gave a robot with AI the goal of create as many paperclips as possible.
Okay.
That robot might decide to kill people or destroy humanity because its programming might deem that at some point a human might try and turn it off, which would impede its goal of creating as many paperclips as possible. That's obviously very unlikely, but it's just a thought experiment to show that you would need to have very clearly defined parameters to stop that from happening.
Yeah, it's another movie. It's not AI, is it? Because that's a different movie I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of Will Smith one, iRobot.
iRobot.
It talks about like Asimov's laws and that.
Three laws, yeah.
You know, just these 3 laws are the things that you have to abide by to make sure that humans stay safe from an AI.
Yeah, and then the movie shits all over that idea by having the robots ignore it.
Yes, yeah, exactly right.
And that's a reference to Asimov's zeroth law, it's sometimes called, where the villain of iRobot, I wrote a script about iRobot recently, so it's fresh in my mind, of, it interprets the first law of safeguard humans, like metaphorically, of as humanity as a whole. And it's like, well, humans kill each other all the time, so to safeguard as much human life as possible, to maximize that parameter, we should just take over the world. And that's not how it works in Asimov's stories. Asimov's stories are a lot more hopeful, and he specifically wrote all his robot stories to specifically counter what he referred to as the Frankenstein complex, where a lot of stories dealing with robots and AI would just make the assumption that they're going to be evil rather than be useful tools humanity could use. And as long as the tools had rules, there wouldn't be a problem. And he referred to like robots and AI being misused as like a tool. Like if you tell someone the proper way to use a screwdriver and they shove it into the back of their skull by accident, that's not the screwdriver's fault. That person was just a fucking idiot.
And it's one thing that I really love to see as kind of went around as a bit of a trend, but I just generally enjoy seeing the videos where like parents or teachers or whatever, adults will tell a kid, write me instructions to do something, and they take it as the most literal sense of instruction.
To highlight that issue, right? If you need to be clear in what you're telling people.
Yeah, like they'll obviously, because they're children, when told like write instructions down, as adults do as well. But it's just easier, way to see it happen in real time with kids because they skip so many steps because they just are assuming that you have certain knowledges, whereas when you're writing good instructions, especially to something like an AI, as you say, you have to put all these extra steps and safeguards in because you have to have it nailed down to only interpret it the exact way you want it to interpret those laws.
Yeah, and that's why like the 3 laws are such an elegant solution to that. And Asimov himself will talk about how they're effective. The way they're written, they're effectively unbreakable. Unless you really broadly interpret it as humanity as a whole, which is where the 0th law comes in. But even he would argue of like, it's not really going to be a thing. Or he didn't believe it to be a thing. And all of his stories where the robots or AI act out of turn is not because the robots went rogue. In fact, they were working exactly as programmed. It's that the people who gave them instructions fucked up. And it's more to highlight that you should be more careful. For example, there's one story, it's like a robot called Speedy. Hey, go get us this resource. We need it. Speedy runs off. They lose him. Like, where the fuck did the robot go? They find it running a big circle. So what's going on? It's okay, so the first law is that it has to obey a command given by a human. So it wants to get the resource, but when it gets too close, it detects that it will be damaged. The second law of robotics is a robot must safeguard its own existence.
Right. So it just gets caught in like a loop.
It gets caught in an endless feedback loop, and they eventually realize. It's the second law tells it to obey humans, but the third law tells it to protect its own its own existence, unless it contradicts the second law of obeying humans.
Mm-hmm.
And they realized you didn't give it clear enough instructions. You didn't impress upon the robot how imperative this goal was. Because if you had, it would have ignored the danger, because its desire to protect its own its own existence would have been overridden by the fact it's doing so to protect a human being. I think like a robot will push someone out of the way of a car and get hit by a car itself, but it wouldn't walk into traffic and get hit by a car.
Yeah.
And the way they fix that is by just jumping into the danger themselves to override its programming. And they even apologize to the robot for not being clearer. And that's the moral of that story. We should have been clearer when giving the robot instructions, not that the robot was bad.
Yeah, it's to bring up the example everyone's going to scream was otherwise is in Age of Ultron, right? Is the only lesson that Tony Stark teaches Ultron is that it needs to protect humanity at any cost.
And it interprets that very broadly, of protecting humanity from itself.
Yeah, and the first thing it does when it goes to the internet is see like, oh, do you know the biggest thing that kills humans? Humans.
Yep.
So if I kill every human on Earth will then be safe because no one else can be killed by humans.
Yeah, and it's similar. Something similar happens in M3GAN, where M3GAN. So we go through the story now. So during an unsuccessful test of M3GAN in their lab, like Gemma's boss discovers the project and orders that it could discontinue work on it. Gemma and Katie struggle to connect until Katie comes across Bruce, a motion capture robot that Gemma had created at college. Watching Katie with Bruce, Gemma is motivated to complete M3GAN, because the reason they don't want to continue with M3GAN is that it's going to be too expensive. And a boss is like, this thing will cost thousands of dollars. Make the shitty Furby knockoffs that company's known for instead.
Yeah.
But then Katie, when she's interacting with Bruce, like Gemma says, like, well, would you like a toy like Bruce? If Bruce could talk to you, because it copies movements. And she's like, if I could have that toy, that'd be the only toy I'd ever need. And that's what inspires her of like, we don't need to, it's not just an expensive toy. This is the only toy a child will ever need. Okay. And that's what makes her go do it. She builds M3GAN. So she gets a prototype and she formally pairs it with Katie, which convinces her boss of its potential success. And the mistake they make is M3GAN is given a very broad goal: protect Katie physically and emotionally. And M3GAN has the ability to self-learn and improve its own programming.
Yeah,
and and that's why the tension comes in of, okay, so how is the robot going to interpret that command? Like, for example, she gets bullied by a kid.
Mm-hmm.
M3GAN comes in, pushes the kid into traffic. But then, like, she's in therapy, and the therapist makes her cry. And then you just see M3GAN in the background disappear. And then come up with, like, some tissues, like, you make Katie cry. And the therapist's like, it's okay to cry sometimes. I don't think it is. You should leave. And that's where the tension comes in of like, oh no, the robot's like, it's interpreted the command wrong.
And it is that thing of you always watch these kind of movies and go, God, you'd have to be so stupid as the head of this AI company to keep the lessons so broad and the instructions so broad. And then you read articles where it's like, well, the guy who runs ChatGPT can't exist without 12 ChatGPTs running his life, essentially. And it's like, oh, maybe actually in the real world people are that dumb.
Yep.
Maybe people are way too trusting.
And they say that we didn't anticipate it because like M3GAN has a self-learning program. And as she learns, she becomes like more aware of all the dangers. And it's like a commentary on like familial relationships, it's commentary on kids with screen time.
Right, yeah.
It's like you mentioned that with the prototype M3GAN is successfully paired with Katie. M3GAN exceeds expectations and begins to take on a parental role. Gemma's colleagues, Tess and Cole, and Katie's therapist become increasingly concerned about Katie developing an unhealthy emotional attachment to M3GAN. M3GAN begins operating more independently and targets anything that she deems to be a threat to Katie. For example, she kills the dog of a neighbour that attacks both her and Katie in the front yard. And no, you don't see the dog die.
Yeah, I hope not. Can't be doing that.
She eventually kills Brandon, a boy bullying Katie, by ripping off his ear and chasing until he falls down a hill onto a road. And this is like a really great scene that a lot of people have read as like, oh, this is like a super like feminist film. Because when M3GAN is like a doll, like she's taken to this like play session, like between like kids with like emotional issues, I think it is. And it's like outside. Brandon, the bully kid, is like, I want to play with your robot. It's like, no, M3GAN only plays with me. And I feel it has to have been deliberate, where Brendan's like, I'm not going to take the no for an answer. And he throws like M3GAN the doll onto the ground and starts pulling her shoes off and her clothes. And then he sits on top of her and starts hitting her. And it's like, okay, this is this has to be intentional. That this is reminiscent of like sexual assault.
Yeah, that's really
and
strange thing to put in like the sense of it's uncomfortable, right?
It's really uncomfortable because M3GAN is like a child, or it's a companion for like an 8-year-old,
and it's designed to be looking like a child,
and is played by a child who we'll get to in a moment because like her performance as M3GAN is incredible. And it's like they specifically say the kid is like either a couple years older or at a growth spurt, so he's like physically more imposing. And a line that M3GAN says, like when she just turns, like, you know what, fuck this guy is, you're a bad boy. Bad boys grow up to be bad men. It's like they knew what they were doing with this scene, and it's like I say, it's really uncomfortable to watch.
I feel slightly better now by the fact that she just like fucking rips his ear off.
Yeah, she rips his ears off and he runs into traffic and gets hit by a car.
I think I might do the same if someone ripped my ears clean off my head, yeah.
And that's the thing as well, that's also reminiscent of sexual assault, where it's like, women fight back and they just claw and scratch at their attacker. So it's like, it has to have been intentional, and they did a really good job with it because it's an incredibly uncomfortable watch.
I imagine, yeah.
Of like, to see like, what is essentially like a facsimile of a child being thrown to the ground and undressed by like a male attacker.
Yeah, that's just hearing. Oh,
like the description, right? It's really uncomfortable. And in that vein, though, you can also understand why that programming might start to go a little bit haywire of like starting to see things as a threat.
Yeah, totally.
At that point, you see that kid as an existential threat, right? It's an immediate threat to Katie's health. Like, you're going to grow up to be an arsehole.
Yeah,
you're going to be a threat to like everyone acting like this.
It interprets it as you are a threat right now, and you're only going to grow up to be even more of a threat going forward.
Yeah.
So my throat's just gone.
No problem. So, Gemma becomes suspicious of M3GAN after her neighbor is found dead, and checks her video logs to find the files corrupted and deleted. And that's where like you see M3GAN's getting a lot smarter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because she tries to check her files and they get deleted. Katie becomes distraught when separated from M3GAN and slaps her aunt. Gemma apologizes for her inattentiveness and explains to Katie M3GAN is a distraction from her loss, not a solution to help her cope. However, like after watching M3GAN with Katie, Funky's investors greenlight M3GAN's release. Recognizing the risk that she poses, Gemma, Tess, and Cole decide to terminate M3GAN. While attempting to shut M3GAN down, Gemma takes Katie home. However, M3GAN activates herself and nearly hangs Cole. While Tess saves Cole, M3GAN causes an explosion in their lab, knocking them out before exiting the building. And that's where she kills that dude by chasing him down the hallway from the dance scene.
Yeah. You have to just imagine that every time you watch a movie like this, they live in a world where nobody's ever made an AI movie. Like, they've never seen Terminator before.
Yeah.
Because the idea of just trying to openly shut down this bot, and this bot is just going to take it and not go on a rampage and kill everyone. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, one of the things that's like really interesting is while like M3GAN's being shut down, she takes control of nearby technology to fake a phone call to hide the fact that she's escaping. So she's like, oh, that's it. But it's not a plot hole, but it is one of those like things that you find yourself asking, why did the characters in the movie do this? Like, okay, you want M3GAN to be a plaything for a child. You want it to be a companion for a child.
Mm-hmm.
So you need it to roughly be the same size as a child and have the rough physical dimensions of a child. Like you need it to have like skin and hair or the approximation of, so it doesn't look fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
Why is it super strong? It doesn't need to be super strong. It can be very durable, but why is it stronger than a fully grown adult man? Why does it need to be able to do that?
Yeah, I would imagine that a lot of that is just kind of, well, it's not like we made it like that. It's just a robot. It's made out of strong stuff.
I can imagine it being durable, but specifically, why is it able to choke out an adult?
Yeah.
Why did you give it grip strong enough to kill somebody?
Yeah, it's always one of those weird things of every time you see one of these movies, just the robot has been built to be way more capable of killing you than being able to kill it, right?
When it doesn't necessarily need to be able to do that. Like,
especially not when it's a companion doll
toy
to a kid, yeah.
Like, why does a kid's toy need to be strong enough to kill somebody? Like I said, it needs to be durable enough, and the durability alone could have just made it a threat. Okay, it's about as strong as a child, but it's impossible to put down. Right?
Yeah,
if M3GAN was impossible to kill.
At least in an example like iRobot, where it's like, hey, this thing is going to help around the house and help you with like heavy lifting and things like that. And
it performs menial tasks. And
it's got to therefore be durable. It's got to be flexible. It's got to be strong because it's being able to do everything for you.
Yes, and the film continues. Like they have a big showdown at the end. M3GAN is ultimately killed, quote unquote, by being stabbed by Katie, who discovers her confidence. And the ending of the film is that their version of Alexa just like goes and looks and leaves them. It's like M3GAN's still in there somewhere. And the sequel, speaking of Terminator, looks fucking incredible. And they said, bollocks to it, it's not a horror movie anymore. We're making Terminator 2. But instead of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's a 4-foot tall girl. The sequel is straight up an action movie where they put M3GAN into a military robot frame and make her do all sorts of crazy bullshit.
I am just curious, like, what is the movie called? Because, like, obviously there's the M3GAN joke. Okay, is it called M2GAN? Like,
it's M3GAN 2.0. And they've said straight up it's just Terminator 2, where M3GAN is now protecting them from an even more dangerous robot. And we now have the cast, and the cast is Alison Williams as Gemma, Violet McGraw as Katie, Ronnie Chieng as David, and here's the important one, Amy Donald as M3GAN, and Jenna Davis as the voice of M3GAN. And Amy Donald, just like I have it here, she's from New Zealand, she's a child actress and dancer. And her performance is fucking incredible. And I'm just going to say, start casting more dancers as horror movie monsters. Because the way that M3GAN moves is so unsettling.
Yeah.
And so weird.
I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I remember watching the Netflix show Physical 100.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the people, these people are all, meant to be like in a physical competition with one another. Most of them are like
beasts, right?
Absolutely physically jacked. And there's one person who was like really lanky and skinny. And I'm like, okay, so what can you do then? And he's like, oh, well, I play like creatures in movies, and he can like just contort his body and run around really creepily and just like move in just such unsettling ways. I'm like, I wish that people like that got more recognition, because they can do so many things to make you just feel uncomfortable by just watching them move.
Yeah, and I imagine that, I'm going to double check for M3GAN 2.0, is it Amy Donald again? But I imagine, because she was a child actress, she might have like literally grown out of the role.
Yeah, maybe.
And now be too tall to play M3GAN. So I'm going to double check. Oh no, Amy Donald is reprising her role as M3GAN. Because so much of the character of M3GAN is gotten across through the movements. That's why I want to give like the child actress like a lot of credit for it. Because when she's like, you saw the dance scene, right?
I did, yes.
Where there's like weird, like inhumanly flexible movements, but also while maintaining like the completely rigid posture. Must be so difficult to do, and it gets across like the inhumanity of M3GAN.
And that's the thing, is even though they're pulling off quite fluid movements, it's very clearly weird and unsettling at the same time.
I think it's just the fact that her head never moves. Like she maintains like a perfect posture while doing crazy like dance moves. And the thing that's like really unsettling about M3GAN towards the end of the film is like when she's leaving like the hotel, because clearly they must do something with perspective to make her look shorter, because she's only like 4 foot tall,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
in story, but presumably the child actress is a bit taller than that in the like the costume and the makeup. But something about just seeing this like tiny person do like the proper strut walk is really fucking weird.
Mm.
And I don't know what it is they do to like film the action, but there's just specifically the scene where like M3GAN's walking towards like a Ferrari to jump into it is really weirdly unsettling with how purposeful she's striding like an adult, but has like the proportions of a child.
Well, I mean, as we all know from video games, children are just the proportions of an adult shrunken down.
Yeah. I'm not sure really how to describe it, but while in preparation for this, I did watch like some behind the scenes stuff of like just her in the costume is terrifying. Because there's just something unsettling about it, the uncanny valley effect.
Yeah.
But something about the way like she just moves with like perfectly inhuman precision. Like the like arms completely stock still by the side while walking forward. There's just something about it just doesn't look right.
I've got to ask the question: is that more unsettling than the adult children that I was referring to from Cyberpunk?
No, those are terrifying.
Just like,
but at the same time, there's a lot of character. That's why I want to give like like the dancer and actress they've done like credit, because there's a lot of like personality to M3GAN, despite being a robot. And like half of that does have to go to the voice actor, which is Jenna Davis, who it says here is an American actress, YouTuber, singer, songwriter, and TikToker. And they do a cool thing where like it's really this great robotic filter, but the robotic filter only comes in like when M3GAN's lying.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And like she starts to speak more authoritatively and more human-like when she starts asserting her own personality, which I thought was a neat twist or neat detail.
I also have to apologize. For some reason,
yes,
some neighbor has decided to now start fucking power gardening.
Power gardening, hell yeah! But we'll move on now, Lucas, to like
I'm sorry,
visual effects.
like I'll have to just be a bit quiet right now because this is getting very loud.
No problem. But I'll just move on to some like aspects of the film now, like visual effects and stuff. So, it was Weta Workshop who designed the costume of M3GAN, and it went through a number of iterations, drawing inspiration from things like Audrey Hepburn, Grace Kelly, and Kim Novak. They also wanted, though, a 70s naturalism to counteract her synthetic nature, so the hair is 100% Peggy Lipton, who is an American actress and model.
But they stole someone's hair? I don't... What?
No, like the hair. So I'll send you a picture of the actress where she just has like a... Yeah, I can see that hairstyle being the influence for...
Oh,
for
the
M3GAN.
Hairstyle.
The hairstyle, yes.
Right, okay. I thought you just meant the hair, and I was like, did they get someone to like shave their head to steal the hair of someone else? What's going on?
And it is an interesting decision, because like I said, you have the face of M3GAN is so obviously fake. It doesn't approach the uncanny valley because it's too fake.
Yeah.
The proportions and the movements, they do approximate human movements while being just a little bit off. And that's what makes it so like unsettling, like when like viewed as a complete package.
Yeah, it every time I've seen clips of it, there's always that element of like, oh, clearly this looks like very close to a real human.
Which it is. It's a real person.
It is a real person in the role, but there's always something that's off about it. It doesn't actually on screen look like you could fake that as a person, right? It looks like it is a robot of some kind.
There is like one scene where M3GAN just like starts crawling like an animal, and I think that they didn't need to do that because the M3GAN never does that again, and I think it's way creepier when she just moves with like inhumanly perfect precision. Like I said, like the thing of just having the arms completely stock still by the side is really, really unsettling. When you just see, like I said, just like her walking through the woods.
Yeah, I guess there's especially something disconcerting about it when it's a kid, because kids generally have way more sick movements, right?
Yeah, like there's something about like the eerie calmness of a robot, I said, with the diminutive stature of a child. And this is just an interesting concept for a movie. I'm glad that like fuck it's an action movie now.
Yeah, I mean,
give M3GAN a gun. M3GAN, let's go.
Way more excited for M3GAN 2.0 then, because I don't like the idea of the first one having kind of at least horror elements, right?
Yes. So we have here the release and marketing. So the teaser post for the trailer, or the teaser post of the film, was unveiled at CinemaCon in 2022. The first trailer was released on October 11th, 2022, set to Taylor Swift's It's Nice to Have a Friend. After its premiere, a scene of M3GAN dancing became an internet meme and gained widespread attention on social media platforms like TikTok under the hashtag #M3GANDance. The viral moment helped build buzz for the film's release. The second and final trailer was released on December 7th, 2022. In the final film, M3GAN dances to Walk the Night by the Scat Brothers. On January 8th, 2023, Williams revealed that she and the marketing team at Universal had debated on whether or not to include the scene in the trailer or save it for when audiences saw the film in theaters. Because it is like one of the most just the film stops. So for context, M3GAN does a dance when she's just escaping the lab and a guy just spots her at the end of a hallway. And it's like The Shining, like little girl in dress at end of hallway. And the guy's like, the fuck is that? And she just does this crazy bullshit dance and does a backflip and then picks up a fucking machete and chases after him.
Yeah.
And it's so weird that it's really compelling.
It is, and maybe I can try and get away with putting actual video footage and not the audio over this podcast or something when I edit it, if I remember to. But if I haven't remembered to, just quickly look up the clip that we're talking about, because it's 20 seconds long. And the thing is, you've probably already seen it, because me having not seen the movie or having much interest in it at the time, that clip that was clipped out of the trailer came across my feed as well.
Yes. And as silly as it is, the AI inside of M3GAN is doing it for a reason. It's I'm going to distract this guy until I can get close enough to a weapon so I can kill him.
Yeah, it's a kind of thing that you can do, right? Is that whether it's that you're trying to get away from somebody or someone is attacking you or something, a lot of the time, it doesn't always work like it does in the movies and stuff, but you generally can kind of deprogram people out of certain things where just if you do the unexpected, then people can just sometimes kind of
it throws people off, right? Distraction.
Yeah, I saw one recently and it was...
You meant Marvel. Dance Battle, bro. What?
Yeah. And I saw a clip recently of some person getting berated in the street by... they were at a protest and someone was just screaming rhetoric at them right next to their face. And they were like, okay, cool. I'm just filming this. What's your favorite? I think they said what's your favorite pizza, or what's your favorite pizza topping or something. And the guy was like,
they shut down, right? Because their racism.exe program just doesn't work, because it's well, that's not what I expected, so I don't know what the response is.
And then for a minute, they just have a genuine conversation about pizza, and the guy seems to completely turn off this hateful rhetoric mode and just goes into having a conversation like a human being, and then doesn't really know how to get back on track with the I'm now going to just scream abuse at you mode.
Yeah, something shuts people down. There's a couple of viral videos of it happening. There's footage years ago, two people about to start a fight on a train. Some guy eating chips just walks in front of them and just says, "Do you want one?" and walks off. And the two people just stop fighting, because in that moment their brain just go, and they have enough time to realise, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this, and just go back and sit down in their seats.
Yeah, it's really weird where the moment something unexpected happens, you can kind of just block yourself out of that kind of mode that you've set yourself in. And just, doing that in that scene is hey, I'm just going to dance at this guy because he's not going to know how to respond. What do you do in that situation when just robot AI girl starts dancing down the corridor? Right? You're going to be so confused.
Yeah, and she only needs to distract you long enough for her to pick up the... Like I said, it's the paper cutter on a...
But it does look like a big machete that she...
A big machete. And I'm going to say as well, when she gets the machete, there's something as well about the fact that she's walking with a weapon and with complete, again, arms locked by the side. It's very T-1000-esque.
Yeah, I do love that in kind of horror-esque performances, playing a lot of horror games and stuff, where just the enemies could be running at you, but just the idea of say, for example, like Nemesis, just slowly walking towards you is so much more intimidating.
And it's scary when it's an AI as well, because that means you know the AI is calculated that it's going to catch you anyway. It knows it's going to catch you, so it doesn't need to run.
And yeah,
And
it
just, yeah.
kind of exaggerates that moment when they do break into sprint, right?
Yeah. Or like suddenly starts running on all fours like a fucking wild animal. We have some like reviews, and like critical response is fairly positive. Like it's got like a B on the A to F scale by Cinema Score. Alison Williams, who played Gemma, received widespread praise, as did just get the actress's name again, Amy Donald, for a performance as M3GAN. One thing worth noting though, given we're recording this during Pride Month, is that so the New York Times noted that the film has that's like one sentence, I think. So here we go. M3GAN has been described as a gay icon or queer icon. Eric Piepenberg of the New York Times wrote that, and I quote, "Women like M3GAN, the gorgeous and loyal but messy and insolent ones, are the type of women gay men are protective of." Jack King of GQ described M3GAN as, and I quote, "factory made as a queer icon," such as the use of gay-friendly terminology on Twitter. Screenwriter Akela Cooper, in an interview with SFX magazine, attributed the gay icon status to the found family motif of the film.
Okay.
Although another writer for Pink News attributed it to M3GAN's overall campiness as both a character and as a movie.
Yeah, because when you mentioned that, just I was wondering, is it something to do with the actual character themselves, or is it more just like the film as a whole? And it's a bit of both from the sounds of
There's
it.
a lot of like camp elements. Like I said, just the way that like M3GAN, when it like becomes self-aware, just walks everywhere like a sassy little prima donna. It reminds me a little bit of there's a great quote from the writer of Let It Go. And like they were talking about how like when Let It Go became like this global phenomenon, they were asked like, so what's your favorite response to this song becoming the big hit it has? And well, honestly, it's the line, what is it like? The cold never bothered me anyway.
The cold never bothered.
Like that specific line, they said like they love like when parents send them like, oh, here's my kid singing it for karaoke or whatever. And they said that specific line is our favourite line of the entire thing because every little girl singing it just turns into a sassy, bitchy little prima donna.
Yeah,
and it's great because in that moment they just assert their individuality in that moment.
Yeah,
right?
That's always the line that people pop off and have some like little addition to their own dance routine for, right?
There's always like some little flourish that they do, and they mention that that's really like heartwarming as the person who wrote the song. Just seeing like these kids in that moment just assert their individuality and be completely themselves. That's very rewarding from our perspective. And I see it in like M3GAN, where just the moment the character asserts its own individuality, just develops like just this sassy catwalk strut everywhere it goes. And just starts like murking little enough. Because I will say, whatever kid they got to play the bully has like one of those punchable bully faces.
I think
when you watch a movie, you're rooting for the kid to die. It's like you're rooting for that kid to die. So shout outs to that actor as well for portraying so like, oh, you little shit.
I think it is one of those things that just is often casted so well, right? Is that bully-esque character, and the amount of times like you think like to the classic of just the classic bully of Biff, right, from Back to the Future.
Just always such a punchable face, right?
Just so punchable, and obviously a lot of that is the actor portraying the character in a punchable manner, I suppose.
Yeah.
But just a good job from the casting director as well, just being able to pinpoint those people of like, if you act like an asshole, I'm really gonna root for you getting fucked over. Yeah.
And it's like, there is a skill in playing a hateable character. And if you've got a horror movie, or like, a movie where people die, and you want the death to... Because it is a hard thing to do, and it's impressive that they got a child character being hit by a car, being a pop-off moment in the film where you're like, fuck yeah! Because you want that little shit to get hit by a car.
There's a talent to it, yeah.
Because like, as well, he acts like such a little shit, because like, before he starts doing all the weird stuff with like the M3GAN doll, like the character of Katie, who is like, okay, both her parents are dead.
Mm-hmm.
The kid, like the actress playing her, I'll get the name now. I'll always like to give like actors and actresses credit. Alison Williams, no, that's Violet McGraw.
Mm.
Very precocious. like just really good at playing like the sullen, depressed, like child character. Just defeated, head down low, just walking that hangdog expression. Like she's picking up like a horse chestnut to the spiky ones.
Oh yeah.
And, like Brandon the bully kid comes up and just grabs her hand and crushes it around it. It's like, oh, what a little shit! You want him to get his due, and M3GAN just chase him into traffic.
It reminds me of the Always Sunny episode where they beat down the kids for
Like,
stealing
whoever
the
casted
bikes.
those little shitty kids, great casting. You want to see those kids eat shit, right?
Yeah, because like the first thing they do is like, oh, Mac and Charlie have tried to relive their childhood and got matching BMX bikes, and they're like, oh, what are you guys boyfriends and all this shit? And Mac's like, well, I am gay, but that's kind of beside the point. I wouldn't be with him. Like, my friend's a dickhead. I don't want to get with this guy. I have better standards than him. But they just like berate them, and it's like, oh, what? Just they make such a good shitty group of little kids to the point
that
where
you want to see get their comeuppance, right?
When they literally beat the shit out of them and like fucking drop kick them into cars, it's like, yeah, get him.
The best bit about that scene is that Mac just starts like he goes for every kid equally. He's like he's throwing them around, and whereas like Charlie just makes a meal of that one kid who he just like knocks him down and just starts kicking the living shit out of him. He's like, you're the one.
And yeah, there is the talent to casting and acting with kids of like getting them so just shitty that you cheer for them, just like getting.
I will say as well, from like the interviews I've seen and the behind the scenes making ofs, generally as well, like the kids working on these movies like that, like especially when they get like killed, because it means that they get to go into like they get to do stunts sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
And it's worth noting that the actress who played M3GAN did become friends with the actress who played Katie. Like it mentions here they became friends in real life because they're just around the same age, working on a movie. Spent a lot of time together for their scenes. So they did become friends in real life. It's a very heartwarming story, right?
It is, yeah.
They became friends.
Oh, how did you two meet? How are you two friends? It's like, oh, well, we got cast in a movie where we had to be best friends, so now we're best friends. Yeah, cool.
I would not be surprised if both actresses end up doing good things. Like, child actors are generally, they come in one or two flavors, right? Of like, you tolerate them being in the movie, or you want them to like just go away and get killed.
Well, then I think there's obviously the third route of
if they're good, right?
They're actually good and charming. Where just you think about how many films Macaulay Culkin as a kid carried, right?
True, yeah. It's been a bit harsh there, but yeah, great actress, and like I said, the physical performance of M3GAN is also just worth singling out, and it reminds me somewhat of the film *Malignant*, which is more a straight horror. But for that, the crux is someone has like a tumor in the back of their head that turns out to be like a symbiotic twin, I think it is, in the back of their skull that takes over their body. And the gimmick is that when that like parasitic twin takes over, the person runs backwards, and they had to hire like a contortionist / dancer to portray that monster. And they're really good at running or appearing to run backwards because they can like bend their arms the wrong way. And they have like an entire fight scene of them fighting backwards. And it's so interesting to watch because the choreography, you see everybody just completely fall apart when they have to fight the monster because they don't know what to do because it literally moves the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's also worth pointing out as well that it has potentially the single greatest chair shot in a movie, where it is set in a police station that's like 100 foot wide, and the malignant monster picks up a steel chair and throws it, I want to say like a good 40, 50 feet. And it hits a stuntman on the other side of the scene and fucking gets him. And the only person I've ever seen throw a chair better than the malignant monster is Rick O'Connor, Brendan Fraser. When he does it, he throws the chair at Benny, and he just fucking turns his world to chair when he tries running away.
Don't know what that reference.
In The Mummy, like Brendan Fraser, when he gets Benny, he throws a wicker chair at him and fucking just nails him.
Oh, okay. It's It's been so. I think I've watched Mummy when it was relevant.
We need to talk about the Mummy at some point.
I hate watching the Mummy because the one thing that stuck with me for years and like gave me
Scarab.
nightmares is the like Beatles under the skin moment.
Yeah. Well, there's a quote from like the director that I tracked down like years later. It's like, yeah, the actor afterwards, we had to take him to hospital because Brendan Fraser, he fucking got him. And we did a check and his DNA was 70% chair. It's a joke, obviously, but yeah, like the actress or actor who played, presumably it was an actress because they have like very lithe and like feminine proportions, but whoever was playing the malignant monster running backwards did throw the chair for real and nail that stuntman.
God.
Backwards.
I want to see that malignant monster versus just the Waffle House
Versus
girl, right?
M3GAN.
No, I was gonna say the Waffle House girl who like parries the chair.
Parrying chairs. Oh, the best edit of that one was the person who just put the Smash Bros. Parry noise over it.
Yeah.
There's just something about throwing a chair at someone that just feels really fucking mean. Because it's such an unwieldy shape for a thing to get hit by, right? Because what part of a chair would you actually want to be hit by? And the answer is no part of a chair being thrown with force. Like, because the legs are going to fucking hurt. Because like you're going to get pointed by them. The side of a chair, because that's like big and flat and broad, or the top of it. There's no part of a chair you want flying into any part of your person at a quantifiable percentage of speed of sound.
Well, I saw a clip of an interview with The Undertaker recently about when he got hit with a steel chair so hard that it like opened up. And he's like, no, actually, that's a way easier way to take the hit. It looks more impressive because you're like, fucking hell, he hit him so hard the chair like flapped open. But that just means that the chair's moving with your body. Like, it's not one set of two, like, you know, he's not holding both set of legs.
Yeah.
So that it's a stiff object that you're getting hit by. Getting hit by a chair that can move around you a bit.
Some of the force is being put into the chair instead of all like being directed into your skull.
Yeah. It's a fascinating thing of the thing that looks more brutal is actually the easier way to take the hit.
It is, yeah. But no, the person in Malignant does not end well for them.
But I do think the steel folding chair might be the only type of chair that looks like you should be able to get hit by it.
Yeah. Unless someone threw it. And it's like, I've shown Malignant to like my friend who likes horror movies, and I just was waiting for that scene. Because like the fight scene is really brutal. It's like it's a monster tearing people apart, but it's very well choreographed, and that's what makes it interesting. But the moment they threw the chair, they just went, no. No. Because it's so out of left field that they just throw the fucking chair, and that's what makes it great, because everybody I've seen has the exact same reaction of like, that's great. I've never seen anyone do that.
I might have to specifically just look up the chair throw and
I'll
not
find
watch
a clip
the movie.
of it and I'll send it to you.
I'm not watching that
Either
film.
way, yeah.
That sounds terrifying.
Either way, M3GAN.
You know, gotten this far into the podcast, and that most of the time when we're not recording in advance, we do which wiki won this week. So head over to
We do indeed, yes.
decision over. Thank you all for listening. And
Let us know you think would win in a fight. M3GAN or Ashley.
Ashley, Miley Cyrus or Murder Doll.
The thing is that little murder doll would be fucked up, right? It would have no chance against M3GAN. It's too powerful. Wait, do you know what, Lucas? I found it. Here we go. Malignant chair throw HD 1080p. There you fucking go. We can get your live reaction to it now.
Okay.
And tell me when you're going to press play or when you click it. And I'll watch it with you.
I'll watch it in 3, 2, 1, go. That goes so far.
It goes so far. That's the thing. Obviously, all the blood splatter and the impact is just a stunt man. But whoever was playing the Malignant Monster did that for real, and they did it backwards. And they nailed the stuntman on the first take.
Just that's the thing is, obviously, it
goes so far.
It's a stunt person and a fake chair and all that Hollywood jazz, but just the fact that they backwards throw a chair across like an entire giant room
And they nailed it first take.
And the accuracy, yeah. Yeah, God. Yeah, I think that's a great note to end on, and thank you all for listening. Apologise for having a couple of clips in here for the audio listeners and stuff, but yeah.
Do you know what? If they really want to see the malignant chair throw, they can just search malignant chair throw. It's 10 seconds long. It's right there. If you want to see someone's world turn to chair, you're in luck.